Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of Thor issue 24/750. And this is big because this is an important milestone for Thor, the 750th issue. And this is a beefy one, man. Look at that head. This thing is $8.99, and I definitely think it is really worth it. It's always interesting to see how certain milestone issues kind of come out, and this one worked very well because the major framing device is the funeral of Odin, and then using the King's Book, Thor reads from it and regales us with tales of Asgard, of important stuff and everything that kind of goes on, and Odin's kind of influences on them. Some of them have less of Odin's influences, like looking into the origins of Beta Ray Bill, but other ones kind of are just, it's understanding the whole kind of tale and history of what's been kind of going on and celebrating Thor as well as Odin, and I think it works very well as that framing device. This has a lot of epic kind of stuff in it because it just, having like a king of Asgard die and have a funeral for them is an important thing, and seeing Thor deal with that and how he deals with that is an important bit as well, because he doesn't rant or rave. He tries to balance his things that he does for Odin and goes forth with it. So we start off seeing them talk about all the things about Odin, all of his names, and we get this great shot of Thor with the book, and he talks about how he's gone. And this is a beautiful shot right here. This double page here with all of the people kind of like coming around. You see Celestials, you see the Watcher, you see Silver Surfer, freaking Cosmic Ghost Rider, T'Challa, Cap, Tony, Clea, Sorcerer Supreme. Let's see, we got Thing, we got Groot, we got a lot of people. We got Hela. It's just really awesome and beautiful artwork. It's like, yes. So this is where he kind of like talks about how his father was a man of great and terrible contradictions, and all this stuff that he has like done. He's like, the old bastard is a ghost now, and I'm still terrified of him. Talking about how he was like the king with a crown of blood and feared by all with mercy for none, yet talking about how he took in Loki and raising like his greatest enemy's child, granting power to those who would judge as equal through though their blood ran not of Asgard, the worthiness in their hearts. Seeing him talking about that with Loki and Beta Ray Bill is really fucking awesome. And he's talking about how his father would cast him out of the kingdom and everything like that. And that every time he was cast out, he would return as a better man and a better god, so that way he'd be a better king to all of them. And that he takes the Book of Kings and he like sees the path, the sacrifices, all that kind of stuff, for those that he loved, for his people, for his queen, for his sons. And that he talks about how only the king can read the book. And since the days of Buri, they're our first king to Bor, his grandfather, to my father Odin, second son of Asgard, and now to me. And that talk about how he'll like be in Valhalla in search of eternity for an empty cup. And let's see, where he'll finally become the things that he always made real for so many of us, where he'll become a myth and a legend in Valhalla. And then it switches over, and we start seeing all the other kind of artwork. We see how Beta Ray Bill, how this group was like sent to grab this dangerous kind of organism. They are successful, even though most good amount of them were wiped out, and that this was a second kind of thing. This was the Beta Project, but they were going to use this Alpha one to take it out, and that this one dude would pretty much be in charge of the Corbinites. and we see Beta Ray Bill have a smackdown brawl with the thing, which is actually pretty cool. And he kind of takes over it, and it's like, what the hell? Some of the Black Robes must confirm that the Beta Project is no more. And that he just takes him and smacks the shit out of him. And the sacrifice of the gods for safe passage has been accomplished. I'm sure Lord Octhrak would be pleased. I trust no further sacrifices will be needed. Do I make myself clear? Telling them to get to their stasis coffins as they are escaping the 10,000 starships explode into space as they get out, and we of course see him like communing with Scuttlebutt and everything. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I mean, I understood. I know I'm not that well versed with Beta Ray Bill's story, but it was cool to kind of see that. Then we get this story titled "The Seduction," as we see that Thor is trying to help the Recorder, and he had like taken on Mangog. He has this kind of belt. Let's see here. He has these kind of like armaments, the Belt of Power, the Shield of Life, and the Gauntlets of Tomorrow, that he needed those things to help fight the Mangog. But it's like zapping his empathy and moral if he keeps using it, and Odin's trying to warn him of that, as then Mangog supposedly pops up. Odin's trying to like get him to see reason, but it's like, alright, I'm gonna have to do this. And as we see him fight, we see him start to lose that kind of moral kind of character that we know, as Mangog is proving to be more than what be enough to kind of like take him on. And of course Odin is like, it's as I feared. They're smothering the good character of the Odin son, and if we don't watch out, it's going to become irreversible. And he's getting ready to like kill the Mangog, as Odin is like, no, I'll take away my illusion of deceit, as he had almost killed Balder. And this of course snaps him out of it, and he willingly takes off the belt and everything else, and he kind of just wanted to utilize the power to like bring back the Recorder, but Odin's like, the Recorder retains a spark of life, and I'll reignite it. And he pops back up, and Odin, Thor's like, nope, I'm gonna fly back on my own, so that I can consider the words of Odin. Like, if Odin says something, one should listen. It's like, Recorder's like, yeah, no truer statement has been spoken. It's like, all right, cool. And it was kind of nice to then switch to this next story, Benedictions, by J. Michael Straczynski and Oliver Koppel. I love this like team. I love the art style and like the stories that they're able to do with this. I mean, I like a lot of different kind of creative teams for Thor, but it's really cool to see all these kind of big ones just doing all these kind of stories. We see that Volstagg brings like a lawyer for Thor to like talk with. It's like, all right, I don't drink on the job, but let's kind of see what's going on with this. That he said that his services were retained by Mr. D. Blake, as we see that we see Blake in the mirror with Thor, and that he's there to pretty much, let's see, he wants him to write a will for him. He's like talking about how like, but aren't you immortal? Yeah, we are until we aren't, and that every time something goes on, there's usually a power struggle, and Thor wants to avoid that. Of course, the dude's bringing up doing like a corporation thing. He's like, you know what, never mind, just do what you want. He's made a list of personal bequests, that Balder should take power after he's gone. Let's see. And then he doesn't want ambiguity in the language. Let's see. A last bequest to the people of Midgard, Earth, to listen to his words, because he's seen them throughout all of our various histories, and that we have such potential for joy and for terror, mindless murder, and all that, and to achieve and grow and change different things, and how that is like one of our strengths. Even though we're brief, we must grow now, learn now, change now, and that it's really kind of interesting and bringing up that the gods should worship humans instead of humans worshiping gods. It's an interesting kind of inversion there of like, yeah, we can do a lot of things, and that the reason the gods don't do a lot of things is they're mortal and they kind of put it off because, oh, we could do this now or we could just kind of wait. Like frozen rivers surrounded by cold stones, as Thor brings that up. It's like, yeah, that's an interesting kind of perspective with that. How not having to worry about dying can kind of change your thing of like, I don't have to do this kind of thing. And then bringing up his final instructions, his body, he'd have a warrior's funeral, and that he would want it to be put into like one of the storms of Saturn, which have been rolling that world for ages immemorial. That there are like thunderstorms in there, and he likes, of course, he's drawn to the sound of thunder, and seeing like Marvel and Strange like sending the coffin or whatnot into Saturn, like that's really kind of cool. As we then see his body kind of electrified and everything. And then it's like into the heart of the storm, tell stories to one another and keep company until like the end of all things. He then says that the lawyer can go and that Volstagg will see to his payment. And that he brings up like, what if nobody kind of believes what words you said? And he's like, they will eventually, given what is coming. But what's, and then he's not able to finish, and Thor's like, you'll see. And then we shift over, we see like Sciencer Supreme Taya, like meanwhile 14 billion years ago during the 6th infinity, and we see that what's next, and we see Loki popping up of what's coming next, and sees things kind of going on, trying to find, let's see, Verity. And then, of course, brings him to New York City now, in that he's, like, acting like a ghost of Christmas past. It's like, alright, let's kind of see what's going on here. And then he had Asgard in his pocket, and he's like, where did that go? And then he goes, and he sees that Odin's dead. And it's like, what the hell? And then we see our Loki that we've been following is like, and the dude the Loki that we've been following in this story is like, was it you? Like, what's going on? And then, of course, we see Loki run away and saying that, try to figure out kind of what's going on, switching over to Lady Loki. And it's like that Lady Loki's the past, you're what comes next, and you can take the story anywhere. I'm just glad I got to tell it for a while. Oh, alright, one last adventure. Wish me luck, Loki. And then she pops back to where she had came before, and that things are getting kind of nuts, like going on a cosmic quest to the heart of reality. And that journey into mystery. It's like, okay, that was a kind of cool little thing to see Loki's kind of perspective from the past on what's been going on now, and how Loki feels about Odin being gone. Then we shift over to Who Wields Who, done by Jason Aaron and let's see, Dan Pastoras. It's like, ooh, okay, and we pretty much see this from Mjolnir's perspective, being like, they remembered what it was, I remember what it was like to hold worlds in the palm of my winds, being the Godstorm and everything, and we see Odin trying to deal with Mjolnir, and just like, I'm not going to be made of a fool of by this hammer, and just starts beating the shit out of things. It's like, yeah, Odin would do that. And talking about the Mjolnir being saddled with enchantments, as if the Godstorm is a bucking stallion that can be broken, showing all the different kind of stuff, like Gore the God Butcher, Thor, Beta Ray Bill, Jane as Thor, to be worthy, and all that stuff. Worthy of me. It's like saying that this person's invasion was a failure. Do you yield? Ha! A Jotun does not yield to a flea. Out, you might say that then. Let us. And then Mjolnir blasts the shit out of them and kills them. and says that they were trying to keep the Lords of Heaven accountable as they could. And then pretty much saying that like no enchantment has tamed their tempest. Sooner or later, the greatest of all gods will fall before me, fall to their knees before me, and that I am not their weapon. I am not the hammer of the gods. I am the hammer that humbles them. I am the storm that wields them. And that's an interesting kind of take, especially since what we've seen with Mjolnir, with this current run, and what goes on with it. Is an interesting kind of partnership to see that with the whole kind of worthiness thing. So then we end off with our usual creative team bringing up what's going on as Thor finishes reading from the book, and that it is now time to light the pyre. He calls for the arrow, and that it is a branch from Yggdrasil, the world ash. Hawkeye carved it himself. Let's see. The bowstrings woven from the hair of Hela. Let's see. And that the arrow that was the Odin spear is part of it as well. Let's see. The arrowhead's made from the eternal flame of Muspelheim. And it's really kind of cool to see all those things brought into effect as we then see them move Odin's body into like the stars from Asgard. It's just an epic kind of shot. And they're just sending him home. And that Sif starts bringing up that they're all looking towards Thor now, not just Odin. He's currently targeted by over 3 million different warships, battle planets, and dwarf jump stations. They do not see, they see not their king, not the Golden Avenger. And he's like, they're afraid of me? They see his hunched shoulders, white knuckles, slow learners. No, this is not a child in mourning. This is the wrath of a god. For Thor knows what no one else does, that Odin is alive, of course. And we see him wrestling with it and decides not to shoot it, saying he can't do it, and asks for Loki to be the one to shoot the funeral pyre, kind of linking them both up within this. And I think it's very nice to have them both involved with it. Loki, of course, bringing up that the heir to the king should be the one that lights it, and he's like, yeah, I am the king. It is interesting to have that kind of delineation there. And then we see that Loki shoots it off because Thor's like, that's a shot that I can't hit. Loki does. We get a giant boom as Odin is sent off. And Loki's laughing at the second son of Asgard bit. He's like, well done indeed, brother. And he goes, aye. And then they shout, for Odin, for Asgard, forever, as the rest of the kind of like people at the funeral wake cheer with their mead. And then we see Thor undressing himself and pretty much tired for the day as Odin's like, I taught you how to shoot, boy. And just Odin being Odin and not being able to let certain shit go. And, oh, you had your little brother do it. And how are you expecting to run Asgard? And Thor's not having it. No. And he's like, stop raising your voice to me, as he goes, no, as he like throws the hammer and breaks a mirror. He's like, why are you here? Odin, of course, is trying, and Thor says, he says, you need to calm down. It's like, that doesn't really help much. Like, answer him, why I'm to carry, like, all of your shit again? And he just says, because you are the king. It's like, now I am a king? Now? Through all the kind of stuff, the Black Winter, the broken enchantments, the world tree turned black, all the stuff that was going on. And he's like, why me? Why will you not move on? Why will you not let me lose you? It's interesting to see that because everybody else is like, they've lost Odin, this important fixture in Asgard, but he is still around for Thor. And he's like, I cannot go home, son. I cannot go to Valhalla. He tried, and the gates were open, they were broken, and it was empty. There was not a soul there, and that Valhalla is gone. And that's a big thing. That might tie in with what's going on with Valkyrie or whatnot, but that's an important revelation, so we'll have to see how that kind of works into, like, Hulk versus Thor and everything like that. But I really enjoyed this issue. This did a good job of celebrating Thor, especially with the 750th, and I really think that it was a good job of framing it under Odin's funeral and using the King's Book to lay out all of these different tales that kind of tie together and weave the myth of Asgard and Odin, because they're intertwined, because Odin was the king of Asgard. Beta Ray Bill became an important warrior of Asgard and an ally of Asgard. Seeing what Thor has had to go through, seeing what Odin has had to go through, and then finally at the end, getting us to a part where it's like, okay, Odin is now within the hammer because Valhalla is gone. That needs to be done with. Something needs to happen and be changed, because that's a big thing. Because that's tied to Odin as well within the mythology and everything. So we'll have to see how that kind of works out. And I do like that this did a good job of presenting all these different kind of stories while still having movement on the main plot of the stories that we have going on now. So I would definitely recommend this to anybody that is into Thor and wants like the 750th issue. Even at the $8.99, I thought this would be like $9.99 or whatnot. And I'm like, hey, you get good value, I think, out of this. It's good quality and everything. And it's definitely, I think, a good value for a Thor fan. And it just does a good job of just celebrating that. And we get a lot of good action, a lot of good stories, in a lot of different ways and a lot of different art styles that just work together. And even if you aren't into the main story of what's going on, or I think it would be worth picking up just for the individual stories themselves throughout everything going on. And it still does a good job of, if you have fallen off of the Thor wagon and you're like, I kind of want to see what's going on with the 750th one, it's also a good kind of stopping and starting point, because it goes through and presents a nice conclusion to all the stories that we've had before, while Thor gives us a kind of little lowdown of that, while setting up the stuff of what's going to be coming after. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this one. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.